There's dust marks in the airbox here and in the intake pipe. That means the engine has been dusted. The chassis might be half full of dirt. If you do come across a vehicle like that, it could be a reason definitely to walk away from the vehicle.
Done a stack of different adventures, Fraser Island, been up to the Capes, the Northern Territory, up in Arnhem Land, Coburg. If you're looking to get into a second-hand 200 series, try and find one that hasn't been used heavily off-road.
We're talking everything LandCruiser 200 series. So we're going to run through a heap of common problems that you guys need to look at for if you're interested in buying one of these. The LandCruiser 200 series ran from 2007 right through to 2021, and it comes with two engine options, either a petrol V8 engine and twin turbo diesel V8. From the factory, they either come with 7 or 8 seats. They've got live axle core suspension in the rear and coil independent suspension in the front. There was no option for a solid axle front end or a manual gearbox, so for all the die-hard Toyota fans, they started to claim that Toyota had actually gone soft. These things came in 4 main trim levels with occasionally a special edition model. Throughout the years, the 200 series actually got a couple of facelifts. The first one in 2012 and the second one in 2015. Both leading to new grills and new headlights. Also, they added a heap more modern safety features, but today the video is mainly going to be about the twin turbo V8 diesel. Our mate Steve from Pinnacle knows a hell of a lot about him. He knows him like the back of his hand, in fact. So I jumped on the phone and he gave me the top 15 problems that these things have, and I'm going to run through them today. If you do find dust on the inside of the airbox lid or the intake pipe, it is probably a reason to walk away from the car. There's a couple of quick little checks you can do to see if the engine has been dusted or if they've tried to cover it up. If you lift this filter up, the bottom of the airbox, if it's all dirty with dust and leaves and all that sort of stuff, that is perfectly fine. There's no problem with that. But this top, you want to be clean. In this case, it's not so clean. There's dust marks in the airbox here and in the intake pipe. That means the engine has been dusted. One common cheap way to fix this problem is some people actually put a little bit of grease around this lip of this air filter, both top and bottom. So if you do pop this and you see a bit of grease around here, don't freak out. The person actually probably cares about the car you're trying to buy and they're trying to stop dust from entering the engine. The next best thing is an upgrade. I know Donaldson do a really good upgraded airbox. So any aftermarket airbox means that this engine has been cared for, because dusting leads into the next problem. I'm going to talk about that, and that is turbo problems. Now, these things actually have 2 turbos, so you've got 2 of the same problem. Obviously, dust going into the engine, it's got to go through your turbo first and it can cause severe damage, and as I said, there's 2 to replace, so it can get quite expensive. Probably one of the easiest ways to look for turbo damage is start it up and see if there's any blue smoke coming from the back, and take it for a drive and see if it feels a little bit sluggish or there's any squealing noises coming from the engine bay. If it's your first one you've driven and you think it might be damaged, a good little trick to do is go and drive another one into bad condition. Take that for a drive and then compare that car to the other modified one that you're looking at buying. These being twin turbo and such a modern diesel, it's such an unknown. Even if it is a little bit of dusting, probably a reason to walk away from the car. Another super common problem in these 200 series, it's not the end of the world, but it is just a common problem that pops up a lot, is either boost leaks in the intercooler or the map sensor is under the back there, and that can crack and cause boost leaks too. Obviously, these intercoolers here are top mounted and they're not a welded tank, they're just a crimp style. So this one here, right on the crimp here, it's leaking a bit of oil, which shows me it would have a bit of a boost leak. Now, leaks on the intercooler tanks like this aren't really the end of the world. It's just something to be aware of, aware that the vehicle does have a boost leak. It might be down in power when you're driving it. The good news is there's plenty of aftermarket upgrades available, or you can just get these tanks welded up and the problem's gone. But it's just all about ticking off these little problems to know what you're going to be up for after you purchase the vehicle. If you are getting a pre-purchase inspection done on the vehicle before you buy it from a mechanic, it could be worth paying a little bit extra, asking him to remove the intercooler and just check the map sensor at the back. Map sensors are known for leakings. The next problem in a 200 series, this one's pretty much common across all common rail diesels, not just 200 series, but it is the fuel system. A couple of things to look out for is, this is a good sign. If it's got an aftermarket fuel filter here, that means that the car has been cared for, because these common rail diesels can be very sensitive to what type of fuel they get, especially if you're out in the bush. Also, another thing we know about most common rail diesels is the injectors will have to be replaced around 250 to 300,000. Now, the reason we tell you this in every video is common rail injectors are expensive and you're gonna need 8 for a 200 series. So if they have been done, make sure you check the logbook inside and ask the owner if they do have receipt proof the work's been done. That is great, is awesome, and you can pay a little bit more for the car, meaning you have to spend less on it. But if they haven't been done and you know they need to be done, it is a great haggle point, because they're expensive. And also just keep in mind not to pay that top price for that car, because you're gonna need a little bit of spare cash to chuck some new injectors in. As soon as I see a new radiator, it just stresses me out, and you think of other things. You think, why have they changed it? Did they change it for a good reason? They found a little leak, or did they change it because it broke and a hose blew off and the engine got super hot? So if it's a genuine radiator, I think that's a good sign. And this one's got the genuine Toyota sticker, and it's dusty as that has been in there since day dot. Another thing to do is just check the tanks. Obviously, these plastic tanks are known for going brittle. When they go brittle, they can go sort of a white grey color. This one's good. You can give it a good scratch. It doesn't dig you in, and the plastic is still black and it's in good condition. Another thing to look for too on these plastic radiators is the tanks actually crimped onto the fins, the same as the intercooler. So you just have a look down here once you've got the vehicle hot, after you've taken it for a test drive, if there is any leaks. This one looks good top and bottom, can't find any leaks, so that is a good sign. A car with a factory genuine radiator with no leaks, that's good to me. Another thing I like to look at when I'm looking at the cooling system is the fans. Obviously, you can have a thermo fan or a viscous fan. This car's a viscous fan, so they're easier to check. What I recommend doing is before you test drive the car when it's cold, just stick your hand in here and spin this fan. It's probably going to be a little bit easier to spin. After you've taken the car for your test drive and the car's warm, stick your hand back in and the fan should be a lot stiffer to spin. If it isn't stiff, but it's still spinning while the car's running, not the end of the world, because these are actually a cheap fix, but it is something that you want to fix first up once you get the vehicle. Any diesel is going to have some soot around the exhaust tip, but if up around the bumper and around that general area is really sooty, it could be a sign that the DPF is clogged and not working. Now, there's no easy way to fully check this over without a very flash scan tool, but a couple quick little things you can do. If you take it on a test drive and when you're down the highway, put your foot flat out and a heap of soot keeps punching out the back even after you've picked up pace, it could also be a sign that the DPF isn't working. If you are looking at buying one, I would pay for a mechanic to go over it. They've got the scan tools, they can plug in, check all the pressure data and see if the DPF is working or if it's not working, because these things can be quite costly to replace or repair if need be. Now, these things are known for building up carbon and all sorts of stuff in the EGR coolers and the manifolds and all those sorts of things, and that can really affect the engine's performance. They're supposed to be cleaned every 100,000 kilometers in a common rail diesel. One thing you can do is ask the seller for some receipts of proof of work, check the logbook, see if it has been done. If it hasn't been done, it's not the total end of the world, it's just something you're gonna have to factor into your purchase cost, and you might even get a bit of extra boost in power once you get it cleaned out. If it has been well looked after and done every 100,000 kilometers, you're laughing, the engine will be in good nick. This is often overlooked on 200 series, but it's a common problem is the sunroof drains. Now, some models do have a sunroof, and the sunroof drains run down the pillar and out the side, but they can get blocked up, and what that can cause is some mad dramas down here in these kick panels or on your floor. Easiest way to check is if you can pop these kick panels off, have a look at all the electrics, check there's no sort of white powder on there. That is a good sign that has been water in there. Also, if the carpet is wet, in some really bad cases, I've actually seen it's caused rust holes in the floor, and you'll be able to see them from underneath the vehicle. The next common 200 series problem is the forward drive actuator on the transfer case can seize up and not work. Two main reasons for this is if it's never been used before, it can seize up and not work, the grease will go hard, or another one is the complete opposite end of the scale, and I've seen this happen in Cape York on the Steady 200, is if they get water or mud inside and they don't work either. So this is a super simple test to do on your test drive. Check the center diff lock works, and also check that it will go into 4 low and 4 high. Obviously the lights on the dash will beep and flash, and if they work, just rock forward, rock back, check it's in low. A good little thing to listen out for is you will hear a bit of a clunk from the center diff lock and from the low range transfer case actuator once everything's where it needs to be, and that is a good sign. My good mate Shaun has owned one for a fair few years now, so he's going to give you guys a few little bits of advice about owning a 200 series.
I've owned this 200 series since 2020, and I've had it since brand new. And in that time, I've done a stack of different adventures, from Fraser Island, been up to the Capes, the Northern Territory, up in Arnhem Land, Coburg, done a lot of towing, a lot of dirt roads, and I put about 80,000 Ks on it in that time. And I also use it as a bit of a daily driver, so you could probably say I get the best of both worlds out of it. Now, sure, it is heavily modified, but I've got to say, I love the 200 series. It's a great vehicle. It's one of the best vehicles I've ever owned. Now, the reason I say that, it's nice and comfortable. It's got plenty of grunt, easy to drive, and it can tow just about anything you like, and it hardly feels it's there. I mean, whether it's a 3-ton caravan or a big boat, even a side-by-side, this thing will tow it, and even on off-road, it'll tow it really, really nicely. Now, I've never broken a CV on it. A lot of people give 200s flack for breaking CVs and things like that, and I'm sure if I wheeled it hard, I'd break CVs every second weekend, but I don't really wheel it that hard. I do light touring, and I reckon for that sort of work, these things are awesome. There's a reason why the 200s really hold their value. They're awesome bits of kit. Like I said, it's got plenty of torque, it's nice to drive, and with a little tune-up, these things go fantastic. For the years that I've owned this vehicle, I've absolutely fallen in love with it. In fact, there's nothing I'd probably want to change, or there's nothing wrong with this vehicle, maybe except except for the price tag. Now, if you're looking to get into a second-hand 200 series, good for you. I think they're a fantastic vehicle that'll probably tick all the boxes when it comes to touring. Keep this in mind though, try and find one that hasn't been used heavily off-road. Now, even with high kilometers, assuming the turbos are fine and the engine hasn't been dusted, all the major things that Jesse would have no doubt covered. Look for a non-mines vehicle, one that has been loved, and I guarantee you, it'll serve you very well.
A few things to look at underneath your 200 series, especially if it looks like it's done any off-road work. The big one here is CV boots. You spin the wheel around or roll the car around forwards and back if you don't have it on a hoist, and just check they're not split. If they are split, it's not the end of the world as long as there is still some fresh grease in there, but if they're split and you open up that boot and it looks very rusty and there's heaps of grit in there, often this happens when they've been lifted or if they just are a bit older, the rubber can get super stiff and start to split. Another thing to inspect under the vehicle, especially if it looks like it's done some off-road use, is the chassis rails and all the cross members and things like that. I like to stick my finger or even take a screwdriver with me and put it in all the holes in the chassis all the way along and just check that it's not holding any dirt or sand, because if it's holding stuff inside, it's going to hold a bit of moisture and that's where rust will start. Sometimes you can't even see it, but the chassis might be half full of dirt. If you do come across a vehicle like that, it could be a reason definitely to walk away from the vehicle. Another thing to check under your 200 series that you're looking at is all the suspension components. In this case, it's got an aftermarket lift kit fitted. What you want to do there is check it's been fitted correctly, it's been wheel aligned to suit. A lot of these suspension kits, you know, you might change bushes and stuff and they might use aftermarket parts. If you can, and if the owner does have it, ask to see the receipts of what parts they've used so you know exactly what brand it is, what part numbers, and if they're genuine or aftermarket parts. The transmission, obviously big dollars if it does need to be repaired. A couple of things you can do is ask the owner if it has been regularly serviced and if they have receipts to prove that, or even just check in the logbook if it has been done. If it looks like the tow bar has had a heap of work or there is electric brake controller installed in the car, another good thing to look for too is go to the front of the vehicle and see if an aftermarket transmission cooler has been installed, because obviously towing big loads is going to put a lot more strain on your transmission. If you have the aftermarket cooler, it's going to run a lot cooler, which means it will last a lot longer. And of course, a few of these things you can start to work out if what the seller is saying is aligning with what the vehicle has done and the maintenance it's actually had. Inside the 200s, they're actually pretty spacious and there's not too much to complain about. The factory infotainment system isn't that crash hole, but there's plenty of aftermarket options available for upgrades, which is perfect. Things like the steering wheel and stuff, as you can see, they don't wear the best, but there's also heaps of aftermarket options available. Probably the only downside I can really think of is the third row seats can be super heavy and difficult to remove if you are going to put drawers or a dual battery system in the back. But other than that, there is heaps of room in here, so it's perfect for families or just a couple traveling that doesn't want to tow anything. Honestly, not too many complaints. They're big and comfy. I've dragged Jake out of the office. He knows a lot about these vehicles. He's going to tell you guys a few little facts that he likes about them.
They're probably one of the best four-wheel drives on the market. There's not much that compares to them.
Yep.
Comfort, reliability, towing.
They tick a lot of the boxes.
Yeah. Like I said, the best one was D-Max before. That was a dual cab. As far as wagon, or pretty much any four-wheel drive goes, these would be by far the best. There's not much that competes
They were
these
top
days.
of the charts for sort of the last 15 years before anything new were coming, weren't they?
Yeah.
It'd be hard for you to keep these in the yard. They fly out the door, do they?
They do, yeah.
Now, every time we come down to Off-Road Pros, we do tell you guys why these guys are different to a usual car yard, but Jake's actually got a couple new things to tell you guys about today.
So now we do consignment. You can sell your car through here. We can sell it for you. We offer finance and warranty, and just makes it easier so you don't have to go to marketplace to sell your car. We've got the traffic for it, so we're geared up for selling four-wheel drives. We also do Australia-wide shipping.
Well, that's handy, yeah.
This month only we're doing a 3-year warranty. And of course we've got plenty of cars here. Every range of vehicle you can think of is four-wheel drives. So yeah, pop on down and have a look.
Let's talk price. If your budget is a little bit lower and you're not too worried about looks, you could go for a pre-facelift model and probably pick something up for maybe even as cheap as 40,000. Yeah, it is going to be probably higher Ks, 200,000 kilometers or above. These things are pretty bulletproof as long as you do a few of those simple checks that we did today. Now, if you want something facelift 2015 beyond, let's say you want something lower kilometers too, you're gonna have to pay a lot more, pretty much double this. I'd say 80,000 and above. Some of these fully kitted out can even go up to 90,000. All I would say is take your time, don't rush in and buy the first 200 you look at. Look at a few of these things, get an expert look at it, even pay a mechanic to do a pre-purchase inspection if they really have to, because it's a lot of money, but the right car will be out there for you. Now, I am a Nissan guy through and through, but I'm happy to admit that these 200 series are arguably probably one of the best all-rounder wagons available for us in Australia. They're reliable, they're comfortable, they're capable off-road, they can haul big loads, so whether you're doing tough tracks or you're doing a bit of touring, They're the perfect all-rounder. So there's so many out there on the secondhand market, I can almost guarantee that you'll be able to find one in your budget. Just make sure you check all these things that we've told you today to make sure you're not buying yourself a bit of a lemon. Well, that's all we've got time for today. Thanks for watching another episode of our Buying Used. We'll see you next time on 4 Wheel Drive 24/7.